right. Well, we are getting there. I'll open us up right now. So, welcome to the Downtown Worcester Management Team on beautiful Tuesday, April 20th. Um, Thank you, Madeline, for recording this meeting. We're going to record the meetings. The recording are the minutes. We'll share that afterwards. In addition to Alder Roth, who is in a public safety meeting and will share her notes in those minutes. If Alder Saban can join us, then he'll give his report, or we'll include those as well. I want to open tonight two things: police and the mayor's office. Due to the Chauvin verdict, are not coming tonight. Lieutenant Marr reached out and gave me a quick report on what's going on in the community, which I'll get to in a couple minutes. But I do think it would be appropriate to take a couple moments right now and just open the floor for people to talk about this afternoon, what the verdict means to you, what you think it means for community policing. And Lana has volunteered and asked to open that up, so let Lana do that.
Hey everyone. So if you don't already know, former officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty on all charges for the murder of George Floyd, a Black man in Minnesota. So that happened just an hour ago. So I just want to, before we enter into this community space and this time with each other, just acknowledge that reality and the many feelings that were coming into this space regarding that. I know for me, I'm feeling a lot of relief, and I think that's probably the case for a lot of you, but there's probably a lot of mixed emotions as well. So joy, fear, rage, hope, all of those things can coexist at the same time. So let's just be aware of them. And I also just want to acknowledge the particular significance and weight of this trial and this verdict for all of the people of color in our community, whether they're here or they're not on this call. That really matters to them as well. And I know that events like this, even though they can feel like a lot, they're also really far away, but we also know that this matters for us here. These things have happened in Connecticut. They will probably happen again. And so this is justice in one moment in time, but this is not the end for us and for our communities. So I think that today we can breathe a sigh of relief, and then tomorrow, this is another chance for us to rethink our ideas and also realign our practices around what community safety looks like, what policing looks like, the role of this team, of this community in all of that together, in order to build a safer and more equitable community in downtown and in Wooster Square, and really, in conjunction with all of New Haven for everyone. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to open up with that. And I also know Tony had a couple of thoughts as well before we open it up to everyone else to share some things that they want to share too.
Tony, any thoughts?
Just what I said earlier, as welcome as this verdict is, we still have to go to the sentencing, so we don't know what he's going to wind up with. And on top of that, just pointing out the stats, 1,000 people a year are killed by the police in this country. See, 3 people a day approximately. And over the last 15 years, that's 15,000 people, and only 3 officers have been held accountable. 3 out of 15,000. Something's wrong. That's it.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to chime in there? Our next, I'll give a quick report from PD on just what's going on in our neighborhood, and then we'll turn it over to Steve Ham for the CRB report. But I do think that this is, as a community, as we continue to heal and figure out how to be a more inclusive society and how to actually respect everybody that we live with. Um, this, the management team is birthed in community policing. And I think it's community policing, the concept of community policing and where we go as a society is really up to us right now, right? And I think that what we saw in Minnesota was society rejecting the norms that are at play right now. And they're sad norms, but they're norms. And I think it is a incredibly vital space that we have this space that we get to talk about what we want to see and then actually push for change. Um, and so I think it's really important that, if you're not today ready to speak up or want to have a thought offline, you can reach out to anybody on the e-board here. We'll be in the minutes. You can hit us up on, you can text us, you can call us anytime. And bring your ideas to the next meeting because we really do want to figure out how to change things. And in an abrupt transition, so I talked to Lieutenant Marr a little bit earlier. It's been a pretty calm period over in our neighborhood in downtown. One of the things that he continues to see, which I think is worth everybody understanding, is these catalytic converter thefts, which are really annoying, and they're annoying. They happen in about 20 seconds, so they're really impossible to prevent. I was happy to hear that they're taking actually a pretty good approach to dealing with the scrapyards and just trying to encourage the scrapyards not to be purchasing them or to be purchasing them with you need ID and a bunch of things like that. As something that was $50 several months ago is now going for $700 in scrap metal. So there's a large incentive out there. I don't think there's anything we can do about that as a community. People are in and out in 25 seconds. It's like you just can't stop that. It's a shame. I asked him, should we be walking our dogs? When should we be enlivening a space? And he says it's happening all times of day and night, and so it's just random. One of the good things that I was happy to hear him say is that there's been an uptick in distracted driving enforcement and in traffic management and traffic enforcement. So I've seen that. It's something we've been pushing for here. These mean streets in New Haven are bonkers. I ride my bike around all the time. Maybe you've seen me. I got a kid in the front of it. It's a whole spectacle. And I don't want to get smashed. So I appreciate that. That's good policing. Let's make sure people follow the rules. And then let's make sure that the police follow the rules too. Steve, on police following the rules, you want to give us the update from the CRB?
Yes. The first thing I wanted to mention is that the CRB has been meeting, I believe, since December, and our first regular meeting was in January. And we do get reports every month from Internal Affairs, and Lieutenant David Zanelli is the guy who's in charge of Internal Affairs. I think he's been there for a year and a half. And previously, he was the district manager in Fairhaven for a couple of years. He was a well-respected guy. He does these reports. They kind of have a little bit of detail. They compare to the past, things like that, but they're not very detailed. But so far, the board hasn't asked for, that people have asked for clarifications and explanations of, often it's the terminology he uses because they have a jargon, But so far, no one has asked to do our own detailed review of any of the cases that he's brought up. I can tell you on an impressionistic level, my impression is that he has passed recommendations on to the chiefs, and the chiefs have been doing more disciplining of police officers in the past couple of years than before. Without a detailed analysis, I could say that is true, but how much more, I don't know. In addition, no civilians have come to the board complaining that an AI investigation wasn't done properly. It seems like there are two ways that we'll get into things. Once by asking to do a review, and in other cases, being asked by civilians to look into something. So we have set up a subcommittee to read and evaluate the MOUs between the New Haven Police Department and Yale and other school police departments. I am on the subcommittee. The subcommittee hasn't met yet, but we're supposed to soon. And we have asked the Police Training Academy for some additional training concerning de-escalation and all sorts of anti-bias rules and training for the police. And they have signaled that they will do this. And that is my report. If anybody has any questions or ideas. Oh, actually, there is one more thing. A couple of months ago, Aaron had suggested some more transparency from the board. And I believe every recommendation that he made is being followed up on, which means direct communications with the heads of the CMTs. That's going to be done routinely. Posting of the videos from the meetings, and like as soon as possible thereafter. And the other element was live streaming on social media. And so the group agreed to all of these things after some deliberations. How quickly they'll happen, I don't know. I've spent my life either in newspapers or in tech companies where typically if you decide to do something, you either start doing it that day or by the end of the next day. But I've discovered that government works a little differently. And that is the end of my report.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody have any questions or comments for Steve? All right, seeing none. And before we move to LCI, I do see Assistant Chief McCarthy here from the fire department. Is there welcome? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I just am checking in both as the fire chief and as a resident of the downtown community. So I'm here, I'm available. If anybody would like, I can go into more detail, but I'm more observing tonight. So fire department is here. I can always be reached by email, j.mccarthy@newhavencmt.gov. But if anybody needs anything, I'm here.
Awesome. Well, we thank you for being here. It's good to see you around. And as always, thanks for everything that you guys do.
Thanks. And feel free to stop me around Worcester Square. If anybody sees me, I'll be out there. Usually my wife and I are walking around down there. So
We can do that. Hey, you're a resident as well, huh?
yeah, I'm on Green Street. So
Wonderful. That's what
if anybody sees me, flag me down.
Well, thanks for showing up. All right. So usually we'd go straight to an LCI report and then into the alders. I would like to try something quick here in order to make this meeting a little more accessible. Are there any residents here tonight that have a time constraint that would make them have to leave, that have an issue that they would like to bring up? Seeing none? Seeing none? Great. All right. Well, we'll hold it for the open forum, but I'm going to try to keep that open because I know people have crazy busy lives, and sitting around through a bunch of updates can be a drag sometimes if you have something you need to get out there. So if you do have something, throw it in the chat. We'll see if we can get you. All right. So next, LCI, our wonderful Carmen Mendez. What's up?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, you and your families, and that you're enjoying this beautiful weather. It's a real treat. For my report tonight, I always drive around Worcester Square. That's one thing that I do, and I do that all the time, faithfully, religiously. It looks pretty good out there. I have to tell you, Worcester Square is beautiful. I was a little disappointed today. There were 5 families or people or whatever that put, out illegal trash, bulk trash, but I've taken care of that. And I want to encourage the CMT, members of the CMT, that if you see something like that out on the street, a chair, a desk, furniture, whatever it may be, feel free to call me, because I like to get rid of those things ASAP. It's very important that the neighborhood stay clean and looks its very best. I hope you've all gone out to see the cherry blossoms. They are absolutely beautiful. And oh, I have one more thing to say. The park, the Worcester Street Memorial Park, will be getting, thanks to my boss at LCI, Frank Diamore, who allotted me some money to do some projects. They're going to be getting 3 what they call bounce riders. And one is a large, it's really for toddlers. One is a large purple dinosaur. His name is Charlie Chumper. And then there's Bronco Buster, a little horsey. And then there's a little fire truck. And I'm really excited about that because I've seen little toddlers there. And I'm so excited about having that stuff put out there. You won't believe it. Also, I got a commitment. We've been waiting for 4 years to have our ping pong tables out there. And it's finally coming to fruition. I spoke to Bill Carone, and he mentioned that he had to assign something. The footings have to be designed by engineers, the engineering office, and they're doing that. So hopefully we'll have the ping pong table out there, the 3 little fantasy toys for the children, and everyone can enjoy the park. We're just gonna soup it up. I have new flags going up on Worcester Street, the little Italy flags going up. Some of them are raggedy and they need to come down, but I have brand new ones going up. And I've also committed to help this gentleman named Dominic, who's shown a lot of interest in our little 2 garden spots on Worcester and Olive. So, you know, I put him in contact with Bill, and hopefully he'll get the chips he needs and maybe some other plants that I can maybe provide for him, so that we can have a nice entrance to Worcester Street, historic Worcester Street. And that's it.
Thanks, Carmen. Yeah, I chatted with Carmen this weekend, and with Bill Iavani as well, who used to run the neighborhood and still actually I think runs the neighborhood improvement program, or neighborhood improvement district. There's a
business district.
There you go. I knew I was missing on a word there. Thanks, Carmen. So one of the things that we were talking about, and along with Carmen, is getting together some more community volunteers that would take responsibility to continue to clean up Worcester Street and all the surrounding areas. Parks Department is really helpful. They'll drop off tools for us. Public Works will drop off bags. They'll arrange all the cleanups. I know Alder Cupo arranged a thing on Lion and Williams a couple weeks ago. Or actually, I guess the residents over there did, and Alder Cupo just backed it up. But we should do more of that, and we want to do more of that. I see Anstrus's hand up, and then I'll put myself back on the queue. Go ahead, Anstrus. You're on mute, though.
I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, Carmen, you probably remember, there was a possibility that the Worcester Street merchants were going to join the Town Green District in order to have the cleanup and ambassador program use that, because it really is such an intense commercial district. The idea was it was similar. So I'm wondering where that's gone. And just related to all the Worcester Street businesses, you know, partly because of COVID and a lot of people not wanting to be at indoor restaurants, we've had so many people enjoying the park, and all the pizza places are doing a land office business. I'm wondering if it'd be possible to have, let's say, one additional trash pickup in the park each week, because the boxes really pile up. And I haven't seen it, but one person said she did see rats. So as long as we have the good weather, you know, it's wonderful to have all the crowds and all the people having fun. But it'd be good if we could step up the maintenance just a little bit there.
Anstrus, this is Charlotte. I have, in addition to that, we've actually received, I think, an additional 6 barrels from the Parks Department, which were being decorated isn't the right word, because I saw the finished product today from the high school students. They were being painted by high school students. So those are being ready to be deployed to the Worcester Square Park. and we'll have those for the duration of the summer. It's a great observation. You know, this stuff takes a little bit of time, but I really, really, really can't wait for the community to see what these young people have done. I was just totally taken aback. Yes, there will be more trash receptacles in certainly in Worcester Square Park. I'm not sure about Worcester Street though.
And so I'll definitely call the Parks Department tomorrow and request another barrel there. And then to answer your question regarding the ambassador program, it was something we tried out about 3 years ago, you're right. And, but we had a hard time getting people to support it financially throughout a longer period of time. But Frank and I were talking about that very same thing last week. And we're going to be calling a meeting with the merchants, because we also have new merchants there, and see if we can peddle the idea and get support for it. Because, you know, you're right. There's a lot more traffic. People are enjoying the weather, and pizza's really popular and people love it and they go there for it. That's the best. And so we need to be able to get rid of all those pizza boxes that are stuffing our trash cans right now. And we don't want them on the floor. So we're going to be looking into that, and I will let you know.
Thank you, Carmen. Anstress makes a good point in the chat. The big bellies are cool, but they don't fit into the historic neighborhood, which makes sense. So thank you, Anstress, for always being on top of that. You are keeping us right. Before we go to the elders, if I could take a moment of personal privilege to circle back to a topic that came up in our last meeting, that we were hearing a real problem from our downtown residents that there was not a downtown vaccination site. And I'm actually really proud of our management team, because through that meeting, in partnership with the Schubert, Anthony McDonald, the executive director, just joined us right now. The Schubert and along with Alder Sabin and the health department and the mayor's office worked to put up a pop-up site at the Schubert last week. And I'll let Anthony quickly just report on that success.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to always be here with you guys. As Ian said, last week on Wednesday and Thursday, the Schubert Theater was able to be a vaccination pop-up site. Even though we were initially supposed to do the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Of course, Tuesday, we all got the news, which was, you know, nerve-wracking, of course. But by Tuesday morning, we had already secured the one of the other vaccines, which I'm blanking on the one which one?
Moderna.
Moderna, yes. Yes, Moderna. How could I forget? But yes, we were able to secure that one. And for the next 2 days, in that Wednesday and Thursday, we were able to finally open up our doors again at the Schubert to greet the community back to us. I believe the first day we were able to vaccinate 65 people. And then the second day we were able to vaccinate 108 people. Even though we had actually less staff to help us as far as the health system was concerned. So I do want to thank Ian and Alder Sabin on their help, because, you know, it was merely an idea that I had, and being at the right place in the right time, i.e. in this particular meeting, it was able to come to fruition. And so we were able to, since we did Moderna, obviously a second shot is needed. So they will be back at the Schubert May 12th and 13th to provide those second shots. I'm not sure if they'll be just allowing anyone to kind of come and get a shot, even if it's their first shot. So that I'm not sure of. However, the whole point was, I'm just glad that I had the help of everyone in this room in many ways to make that a reality. The different news channels came out, and obviously you may have seen some of the news then on telling everybody that we are doing at the Schubert, because at the end of the day, it's about helping the community. And like I said, that was the point of why I wanted to do it. It wasn't to get any money from anybody. It was really to say thank you for supporting us all these years. And this is just something small that, you know, I'm glad that we were able to give and provide to the community. And I look forward to being able to do more of it. And so, I look forward to, like I said, just working with this particular management team, with Alder Sabin, with Ian and his team on figuring out other ways and ideas that the Schubert can help the community out. Because once again, it's because of you guys why we can exist and why we can continue to be a part of this particular community. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you. That was awesome that we were able to pull that off. Miriam.
Well, I guess it's not so much for Anthony because Anthony works for the Schubert, but my big thing about advocating for the downtown community with testing and with vaccines. Our testing facility docks, which had been closed for a few weeks in March without signage, when I texted the corporate office, they actually sent us a picture the door is locked. I said, what are you talking about? You should know if your place is closed or not. I sent them a picture, but they didn't even know. P.S. They reopened, but they're closing at the end of April. So come April 30th, there will be no testing site in downtown New Haven. And even docks, even when they were open, they were problematic. First, they were only doing rapid, then they were doing PCR, but they said that if you're uninsured and you're not a citizen, they can't take you for free. So there was problems even before that. We stopped having Yale pop-ups. We didn't have Fairhaven pop-ups. We only had Cornell, Scott Hill once in the summer. So I think we do need, I know people are supposed to get vaccinated, but it takes time to build immunity. Kids under 16 can't get vaccinated. Not everyone is. There should still be Yale, Fairhaven, Cornell, Scott Hill. Someone should be coming down to the green and doing regular testing, because we are losing our one testing site, which wasn't even perfect, and you had to sign up online. We are losing that testing site at the end of the month. There will be no testing. As for vaccines, I'm happy that it happened. One thing is these New Haven clinics, they say residents only. And I understand that if the line was busting out the door and you had not enough shots for the residents, that'd be great. That's one thing. But here you have slack in the system, as Josh Gabel says, he's a COO for Governor Lamont. And the thing is, I think not letting people who work in New Haven but happen to live in West Haven or Hamden, they work across the street, telling them they can't get a shot here because they don't live here, I think it's just counterproductive, because they work here. It shouldn't be easier for them to be able to get a shot where they work. And then, if they're in our community as employees, they should be safe too. I think we should reconsider that situation. As for the FEMA, they were told you had to have an appointment when they were still doing Johnson & Johnson. I had several people, I had the guy in Marquette call up the Griffin Hospital, and they told him no appointments. Meanwhile, they were taking walk-ins. So the messaging was unclear. You call the phone number, they're telling you no can do, call us for a Pfizer, but you go there in person, as I did, they're telling you can actually show up in person. So there needs to be clearer messaging on, when you have one of those clinics, if you're going to take walk-ins or not. As for the Moderna, I think part of the issue was a lot of the people live downtown, because the clinic was supposed to be a J&J clinic. They may have already gotten shots elsewhere. A lot of the residents may have already gone to West Campus or Floyd Little or whatever else you may have you. And I think right now the people who want shots are Johnson & Johnson. I know that has to be taken back to market, and the Pfizer, because Pfizer 16 and 17 can do Pfizer. So I think Pfizer clinics tend to do better than Moderna clinics, because there's just more demand for Pfizer because of the age limit, and people perceive of Pfizer as the top vaccine, whether that's right or wrong. But I think there's several things. I think we should open up the New Haven sites to non-New Haven residents who happen to be there, given if there's enough space available. Be consistent as to whether you can have an appointment or you can walk in. And also I think use the green more, because that's a little more visibility than I know the Schubert is great. I think that's great, but I think also take advantage of the green, because the visibility there is just unparalleled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Miriam, I think a lot of the things you're saying are the same things that both Anthony and I were kvetching about going into the meeting. And really, there is, I think there's two things. One, the mayor was supposed to be on tonight and isn't here. And these are some of the questions that we wanted to ask him. We asked him back to the next meeting. And Andy Orafici from Yale New Haven Health Systems was supposed to be here tonight. And so we're going to ask him back to the next meeting too, because I think these are things that we need to address. And we'll do some work in between as well to really figure out, because I know Anthony had opened his doors for much more than just a pop-up. And it was the only thing that the system could provide. So I think there's a real question here about how can right now we have a venue that's closed and has the perfect space for it. And how do we get them linked up with a provider that can come in and just be open all the time and not just vaccinate our residents, but the people that serve our residents every day and the people that interact with our residents every day.
And I'll say this as being on the ground and obviously kind of being aware of changes as they were happening. We were told initially that it would be for New Haven residents only. However, as things obviously changed in, very quickly from Johnson & Johnson to Moderna, and then also just the day of, as we had less people, I believe, that we were able to vaccinate, they kind of then dropped the requirement of it being for New Haven residents only. And so I believe that my messaging on that we were putting out would kind of remove that language, because once again, we were informed kind of as we were now doing it, that it no longer had to be New Haven only. Because at the end of the day, as you kind of said, Marion, we wanted to more so just be able to provide shots in arms, no matter who and or where they were from. And so, once again, obviously as a site, I can only do the messaging but so much. It is more so than on the health system to really solidify what their policy is going to be, so that as a site, I can then relay that to the public and in the means that I have available to me. It's obviously hard for me to say one thing and then all of a sudden tell everybody in the day itself, hey, we're changing it up, without messaging getting confusing and without just people not really hearing it, because once again, you thought it was one thing. So you said, all right, well, I guess I can't go there. And then it changes day of, and now it's different, but now you've already put it out your mind that you can't go. So you're no longer looking for me in my site to help you. So yeah, so I do agree. It is confusing. It's something that, even when the green aspect was a week prior to the Schubert having it, I actually called the health system there that was coming to us, and it was at the green, and asked them, could I do it, being that I don't live in New Haven? They said, unfortunately, no, you have to be a New Haven resident. So I called just to make sure that I couldn't go to the green when FEMA was doing it. And I was told no. I don't know if they had changed it when they got there as well. They did with my facility. But the whole point is, it is hard because, yeah, people are coming into New Haven. They are working there, and they are sometimes there during working hours. And it should be an option. So I agree with you in that sense, but it's not necessarily on me as a site. It's really for the health people and the government to kind of make that decision and then let me know so that I can tell the public.
Yeah.
I think it would help maybe if you want to like balance the two things. You could say for like the first hour only New Haven residents, like you could balance it. Like if you see there's extra stuff going around, you could say open it up. I belong to several Vaccine Hunter Facebook groups, and this information is helpful. If anyone can come, it's really helpful. But like, even if the messaging has changed, but even saying the first hour New Haven residents only, second hour, people who work in the area, and third hour anybody who happens to live or work in Connecticut, I think something like that could kind of balance it out. But right now I think there's leftovers even with just the current policies.
Yeah. Just very briefly on that, I think that what we found out was this, just how rigid the system is and how hard it is to make it work for everybody. So I think this is the right thing to do. Let's air these grievances and let's see if they can hear them and do a better shot next time. Anstress, and then I'm going to go back to the alders.
Just a quick comment. I hope that this can turn into something that's regular, because it'll help people figure out, if they know that every Tuesday and Thursday there's a place downtown New Haven to go, they're more likely to make it work. And I think with the summer coming up and heat, both to have staff and the people getting vaccines to be able to be in a comfortable air-conditioned space, and to have bathrooms, and to have places where people can wash their hands. It seems like it's a much more sanitary kind of setup. And in a certain way, there's a little more privacy. And those are all things that I think are good for both the people that are administering the vaccine and the people rolling up their sleeves. So, if it was regular enough, it could be something that you could put on the Schubert sign. and then it becomes something that just people driving by, walking by, see it. So I think if we, everyone that gets vaccinated, they're protected and people around them are protected. So anything we can do to make it as easy as possible is really important. That's all I have to say.
Great. Miriam, are you okay if we move on and then circle back, or do you want
Of
to?
course, yeah, because you want to keep the meeting going. And I know this is a very fascinating topic for me, but I know you have other things on your agenda, of course.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we're going to go to our alders, Alder Cupo, and then Alder Sabin, and I don't see our Alder Rodriguez with us, so Alder Cupo.
Thank you, Ian. I just want to open up and just thank Lana for really setting the tone for this meeting with talking about the verdict in the Derek Chauvin case. I think that this tends to be a really white space, this meeting in particular, and it is not reflective at all of our city as a whole. And so actually bringing up the issues that are on people's minds, certainly on my mind today, and I'm sure countless other people I know in the chat. Andrew Gehring put that Black Lives Matter is having a gathering on the green. So I just want to thank you for opening up with that and continuing that in conversation, because I think it's something that, while this was certainly justice in terms of the verdict, justice would have been for George Floyd to be alive and for this not to have happened. And so I just want to thank you for that. Leading into my reports, which are essentially, I'm going to drop a whole bunch of stuff in the chat. On my mind right now are folks getting vaccinated. I have some information from Next Haven. They are running a clinic on Saturday out of their shop at 169 Henry Street. I'll leave information on how to get in contact with them. Also, Vaccinated Bear Haven is still going strong for folks who have been vaccinated. I know we talked about this in this meeting before, but please contact Dave, sign up, knock on doors. Let's get people vaccinated. There's also, I sent out an email today, but I'm also happy to drop that in the chat. There are vaccinations available through Yale Health at a variety of local pop-up sites. They have capacity. So for folks who know someone who hasn't gone because for one thing or another it hasn't worked out, send them there. Also want to bring up the Building Pathways program for New Haven residents is accepting applications. If you know someone who is a New Haven resident, they're 18 or over, they have a high school diploma or GED, they must be unemployed or underemployed who want to go. It's an 8 to 11 week program. It's hybrid, both in person and online. But it's I think a phenomenal opportunity for folks to get involved in construction jobs here in New Haven. They're pushing that really hard. If you know anyone, please spread the word. On a lighter note, the Board of Alders passed, and I'm sure Alder Seaman will talk about this as well. We passed an ordinance. We have allowed for a street closure to have creative crosswalks painted on Chapel and Union and Chapel and State. There's been a call for volunteers on April 24th and on the 25th, as well as May 1st and May 2nd. I'll drop a link in the chat for a sign up. And that is vaccines, knock on doors, get other people vaccinated. Let's paint some streets. Let's keep talking about what's happening in our country and in the world. And I'm really happy to be with y'all here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alder Sabin?
Thank you, Ian, and just wanted to echo what Alder Cupo said in thanking Lana for raising the conversation tonight. I think, it's a difficult day, but an important day for our country, and I'm glad we can have that conversation among us and also understand that this is a white space and there are a lot of folks who we need to be having that conversation with and continue to have conversations about what needs to change both in our city and around the country. So thank you for lifting that up. In terms of updates, first of all, I also wanted to thank Ian and Anthony for their work in making the vaccination center at the Schubert happen. It was very exciting to see folks streaming in and out of those doors for the first time in a while. So thank you, and also to the city for making that happen. And we should also talk more about whether we can keep doing that, or also maybe make some testing sites available at the Schubert or elsewhere. And thank you, Miriam, for raising that. Other than that, I wanted to highlight that the city's budget process, the Board of Alders budget process, is ongoing. There's going to be the final public hearing on the budget on Monday, May 10th at 6 p.m. and then deliberations on the 13th of May and the 20th. And then our special budget meeting is May 26th, and I'll drop that and a bunch of other things I'll mention in the chat. Also, the Samia Collective is having a rally for Husky Medicaid for All on Friday at 4 p.m. in Fairhaven, which I think is an important opportunity for all of us to get out and support our immigrant neighbors who don't have access to healthcare. And I think that I'll be there, and I think it's an important thing for all of us to try to show up and support folks in our community. And then I will also be out there on Saturday. Hopefully the weather's nice to help paint some of the crosswalk art at State and Chapel, and I hope other folks will sign up, and that'll be fun. And then the last thing I'll mention is that the New Haven County High School Democrats are looking for new members. So if there are any high schoolers on this call or high schoolers in anyone's lives, I will drop the link in the chat, and it's great to have young folks getting involved in politics. So encourage anyone to sign up for that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Alders. Anybody have any questions or comments for our Alders? I see Miriam.
I think Doug was on the call earlier. I noticed like some of the walk signs downtown, like they've been covered up with trash bags. What's going on with that? When are they going to be repaired and like back into operation?
Sure. Thanks for the question. They've never been in operation. They never existed before. So they're under construction right now and should be turned on by the end of June.
Thanks, Doug. That's at Chapel and High, right? That we're talking about there?
There's 11 intersections in the project, including Crown and Park, and many other they're all on the west side though. But yeah, Chapel and High is one of them.
You can see the one that I've noticed. I've revealed myself. All right, so here's what I think what we'll do here is we're going to go ahead with our normally scheduled or our reports that were on the agenda, and then we have a couple last minute additions. A quick report from Aaron Good talking about the subcommittee from the management team who's doing a meeting on Monday about new development, and a quick update from Site Projects who's going to talk about a thing they're having about the Lanson statue soon. So, but first, I will turn this over to Economic Development, Robert Ellis, and looks like Carter Winstanley to talk about 101 College Street. Unless there's anybody else on that.
So I'm happy to jump in if Robert is not on yet. Robert, are you on?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Hi, I'm Robert Ellis with the Economic Development, City of New Haven. Tonight we are going to have a presentation by the Winstanley Development Team for the 101 College Street project. We're also going to have a opportunity to share with you not only the scope and scale of the project, but also the impact it's going to have to the area. Doug, who is the executive director for our traffic department with the City of New Haven, will also be able to share some of the strategies and redirections and rerouting that's going to take place in order for this project to work and be a success. We are definitely, as we've done in the past, continue to ask for your patience because there is going to be some inconvenience as this 2-year project begins. We're scheduled to break ground in June with expected completion in the summer of 2023. Be that as it may, at this point in time, I'll turn it over to Carter and his team and allow them to describe the details of the project.
That's great. Thanks, Robert. I want to thank everybody for allowing us to come before you this evening. Again, I hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy and getting vaccinated very soon. The last time we were before you was just about a year ago at the start of COVID and at the start of a period of obvious great uncertainty in our communities. And I'm excited to be able to come back tonight, almost a year later, and say that the project has moved to a much better place where we have been able to secure multiple tenants to anchor our project. We've been able to secure our financing over the last year. We're finalizing our plans and budgets, and all of this will be consistent with the expectations we outlined last year in front of the Board of Alders. So it's been a very busy year since we were last in front of you. But I'm very happy to be able to report tonight that we're very much on track and consistent with what we reported last year. And with that, I want to introduce Ted DeSantos, who is on the team meeting tonight with me to speak to some of the next steps.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So I'm the civil engineer, among other responsibilities for the 101 College design team. And really here this evening just to let you know about some of the upcoming steps as we get ready to start construction here in very short order. So early June, you're going to see construction start on the property. And we do have an extensive coordination effort going on with city, TTP, with Doug's staff, as well as their outside consulting team from HNTB, and Anna, who I believe is on the agenda later on for an overview of Downtown Crossing Phase 2 and 3. We're coordinating with the hospital and Park New Haven. There will be a lot going on, and I want to assure you that we've been working for over 2 years now in planning for the synchronized construction of the public and the private projects, and very excited to see this project move to construction now. So as we get ready to start, you will be seeing construction begin on the property. It is the plan to maintain traffic to and from the Air Rights Garage and the 100 College Street building through the active construction site. This is a very simplistic overview of what we're going to do. We're going to close traffic in the what's called the South Service Drive, and we'll have two-way traffic in the North Service Drive. And this will be the condition that will exist beginning in June through February of next year. That allows us to build roughly the lower 2/3 of the site. And then we flip to this second condition where we move traffic over to the South Service Drive so that we can construct what needs to be done on the northerly portion of the site. And this doesn't start until February of 2022. So big picture, we have two different traffic conditions. And what we wanted to share with you this evening is that with construction starting, with all the coordination with Phase 3 of Downtown Crossing and their construction getting ready to start, there are several local approvals that we are finalizing that you'll be hearing about. So for example, on May 11th, we'll be in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals to seek a variance for a minor issue relating to a change in Phase 3 that gets carried through the site plan approval of the 101 College project. So it's really a legal cleanup issue with, and actually I'm just going to show you a graphic so it doesn't seem like I'm hiding something here. So with the change to Downtown Crossing Phase 3, where the Temple Street crossing as shown here will now be constructed in the future, we have a condition where 1 foot along this frontage where we're crossing over the service drives needs to wait and be constructed later. And because of that 1 foot change, we need a variance to address this temporary condition. Once the crossing is built, that 1 foot of sidewalk will be added. So that's on May 11th with the Zoning Board of Appeals. We also wanted to mention that we'll be in front of the City Plan Commission for a special permit on May 19th. And that special permit is for the soil stockpile that will be put in place right at the start of construction. So here is our site. It's bounded by MLK, College Street, and South Frontage Road. This is the traffic condition I showed you before, where we have all of the traffic on the north service drives. And we need a soil stockpile. And that's city-owned property. And that stockpile requires a special permit from the City Plan Commission. So happy to answer any questions you might have, but really wanted to leave you with having those 2 dates in mind, May 11th and May 19th, so that you're not surprised when those items come in front of the local commissions. The May 19th with City Plan Commission is a public hearing because it's a special permit approval. So thanks for your time, and if you have any questions for us.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Steve, is that a hand? Yep. Your hand's blending.
Yeah, 2 questions, one for Ted and one for Carter. For Ted, I thought this was entirely going to be built on a deck. Why do you need the soil?
So if you think about what needs to happen, the first thing we're going to do is to make some deep excavations for the footings and foundations to support the building over the deck. And some of that soil comes back to the site as fill, as those foundations and the concrete cures and the fill gets placed back. But net soil, there will be some export from the project when we're completed. So we have a temporary stockpile that we'll be adding to and subtracting from during construction.
Great, thank you. And Carter, is this biotech with labs? And what kind of demand are you expecting, especially keeping in mind the uncertain future of Alexion?
That's a great question. And currently we own several lab buildings in town. And what we're seeing today is really a remarkable amount of demand in the life science and biotech sector. Currently, there is not 5,000 square feet of available space in the city, and yet we have dozens of small life science tenants who are out looking for space and who want to start their businesses in the city. So what's remarkable is a year ago, we were faced with really remarkable uncertainty as we headed into COVID. And yet we felt strongly that this project made sense. We also felt strongly that life science was an incredibly important industry, not just for New Haven and the state, but for us as a country, that these are the companies that find and discover the next generation of vaccines and cures. And so we felt that this was an important industry. And so we kept pushing forward over the last year. And the result a year later, as we come hopefully out of COVID, is that there are more investment dollars coming into life science startups, and we're seeing more demand than we saw even 2 years ago, pre-COVID. So we find ourselves in a fortunate place as a city and as a state, in that we're bringing online another big block of life science space in close proximity to the hospital and our education centers, and located in a city with really first-class quality of life. And so we believe the demand will be significant. And we've already started to see that with the anchor tenant interest that we have today. So we're very excited about working our way out of COVID. We're thrilled about the support that the alders and management teams lent this project in a period where it was incredibly uncertain. And I think as a community, we're now faced with having a project that could be remarkably successful for the city.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. I think my only comment here is that, Robert Ellis, nice to meet you. I think it's the first time we've met. One of the things that the management team does ask is that we get these presentations 2 weeks ahead of time so we can send them out with our invites so community members can take a look at them, figure out if something they're interested in coming to, because I think what we're really trying to increase the transparency here. This one seems like a pretty clean update, so no real major problems here. This has been a really well covered development, but just in general, it's really nice to get those ahead of time so we can share them out.
Understood, and will do.
Thank you, man.
In the future.
All right. Next up, we're gonna on the theme of that part of town, we're gonna have Anna Mariotti talk to us about just how much of a mess this is gonna make to our streets. Anna? Oh, no.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I will share my screen. I believe Doug, the traffic director, is here to do the presentation. And of course, I can also help answer any questions related to the ways in which we are notifying the public. But do I have permission to share?
You do.
Okay. One moment.
Perfect.
Okay.
Anna, why don't you do this part? Because I think I'm going to be next on Safe Routes for All. So I think I'll be here to answer any questions as needed, but I'm sure people will fall asleep if I just keep talking for 2 presentations in a row.
Okay. So I'll, being mindful of everybody's time, try to keep it brief. Just for context, in case anybody is new to being aware of Downtown Crossing, it is an infrastructure project being undertaken by the City of New Haven to undo urban renewal damage that was done during urban renewal, and reconnecting the highway to nowhere, as it was called, reconnecting city streets in 3 different places, turning what was a highway into urban boulevards. In doing that, it's not just connections for cars. There is a lot of bike and pedestrian infrastructure. Also beautification that's not just designed to make it more pleasant for bikers and walkers, but also to make clear to cars coming off the highway that you are now not on the highway. You are in a city, you are in neighborhoods with people and bikes and slow down. The first phase was College Street, completed in 2016. The second phase is being built right now, Orange Street. It will open in July. And the final 2 phases are connecting Temple Street to Congress Avenue. It's being done in 2 phases to reduce traffic impacts and make funding more phased and feasible. So phase 3 and 4. 3 is preparing Temple Street and Congress Avenue area for the future bridge. So it's building an abutment, it's raising the road. Phase 4 will be the building of the actual bridge, and this is not an exact rendering, but a representation of what that bridge will look like. Again, not just for cars, but for bikes and people. This slide also shows the relative location. I think it's going to be a slightly bigger building than the square of 101 College Street. Before we jump into the details about phase 3 construction, which will impact people this year and their commutes, a quick update on phase 2, which, as I mentioned, will open in July. Oops. So when it opens, this is what the intersection will look like. We've labeled the streets to give orientation to people. This intersection features the first protected bike pedestrian intersection in the state. And what makes it protected, it's an intersection, not a lane. It goes all the way around. It's not just separated from cars by space, but there's also islands that have bollards for worst case scenario as an extra layer of protection. Another 2 important things to note, excuse me, about this intersection is that when it opens, when you leave the highway environment and enter the city, you will come to your first traffic signal at Orange Street, which will be a big change because even though it's just about a block away, right now people come to their first traffic signal when they leave the highway at Church Street. The other important thing to be mindful of when this opens, and there will be signs saying so everywhere, no matter where in this intersection you are, there will be no left-hand turns. You can go straight or go right. The reason for no left-hand turns is that it's a large intersection, a 2 signal phase intersection. We don't want cars getting stuck in the middle of it. So this year, 2021, these are the 2 projects related to Downtown Crossing, phase 3, preparing Temple Street to for the future bridge connection to Congress Avenue, and 101 College Street, which I will breeze through. Feel free to ask questions, but I'll breeze through it because Ted and Carter just went over that. So phase 3, in April, actually right now, the construction area is being set up with fencing, staging of equipment. In May, the actual construction will begin. And when that starts, there will be single lane closures, 1 lane at a time. Of course, on-street signage will alert people. And later in the presentation, we will note that we are asking people to sign up for construction news. And when you do, you'll get bi-weekly or weekly as needed updates, always giving you updates, advance notice on upcoming traffic impacts. So the most significant traffic impacts that will occur with Downtown Crossing Phase 3 is the 5-month closure, 20-week closure of South Frontage Road between College Street and Church Street, and then the small portion of Congress Avenue that feeds into South Frontage. This is being closed so that the road can be raised approximately 8 feet to meet the bridge, that bridge grade that will be built in phase 4. While this is significant, the city has invested heavily in not just an official sign on road detour route, but also developing alternate routes for all of the city garages, all of the hospital's garages, many of Yale's garages, large employer garages in the area, providing alternate routes outside of the detour with the intent of preventing traffic from entering the general area and reducing congestion and, to the extent possible, reducing delays as a result of construction. A couple hopefully positive things is that most of this closure occurs during college and summer break and summer in general, where traffic tends to be less. Traffic volumes are beginning to increase as more people get vaccinated and start to go back to the office, but we don't anticipate them being fully pre-COVID levels by the fall. We don't anticipate that. Still, it's a very congested area. So here is part of the official detour route. And this is the small part that will bring people directly around the closed portion of South Frontage Road. During the closure, Lafayette will be made one way out in an effort to, peel traffic off, get them back on South Frontage Road. However, this detour that's shown here is part of a larger detour that aims to, in general, keep traffic out of the construction area. And here's where I will turn it over to Doug briefly. He's better at describing this than I am.
Problem. Thank you so much, Anna. You're doing great, and appreciate the time tonight on the agenda again, Ian, and the rest of the management team here. The goal, of course, is to avoid people in the closure. So starting way up the line on South Frontage Road, we'll be having signage at El Grosso Boulevard, signage at Howard Avenue, signage at Park Street, and signage at College Street to divert traffic away from South Frontage Road closure. Additionally, more signage will be added to Columbus Avenue, but again, really trying to push people to using exit 44, which is a better method to actually get onto 95 northbound. Down at exit 44, you have a dedicated, if anybody is a driver and uses this area, there's a dedicated entrance lane that you don't have to do any merging. But that's sort of the broad scope of trying to prevent cars from being in the South Frontage Road and College intersection to start with. The next slide will show you other efforts. As folks are approaching the closure, we've created new capacity on York Street southbound in order to handle traffic that's going to the hospital, to the emergency room, to the children's hospital.
Hi, may I order delivery, please?
To the underground.
215.
One second, please. To the underground garage there on York Street. So this two-way condition on York will be in during construction. This will be put in on June 1st. And it is not the only, as mentioned, the Lafayette and Congress conversion to one-way. But I think most exciting for us is the new network that's going to be shown in the next slide, which is the reopening of Columbus Avenue. And again, the reopening of Orange Street that will be open in come July. So the opening of Columbus Avenue will happen on May the 15th. There's going to be a party that will, a lunchtime party on Columbus before it's open, something that'll have hopefully some bike mechanics or some food trucks or some not food truck, or maybe some catered food or something of a party from 11 to 1 to really celebrate this reopening. This has been closed since the 80s. So this new network for Columbus will really take a lot of the traffic from the Amistad Garage, from the Old Lee High School, if you're familiar with 100 Church Street South, from the Washington Ave lots, from the daycare, from the Marchigian societies. This will take the traffic, about 1,000 cars in the afternoon, and put it onto Columbus Avenue, utilize the new Orange Street connection, and be able to divert around the detour and never have to go onto the Lafayette conversion there, the detour route. So this new network being opened on Columbus Avenue is permanent. We'd like to show you what it looks like.
If,
as mentioned,
sorry to interrupt, if you don't.
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
Sorry. I was just going to skip through 101 since that was gone over, unless there's questions later, and go to the, this.
Yeah, so this is what the roadway will be looking like on Columbus Avenue. If you're standing at Church Street South and looking towards the police station or looking towards Union Avenue, you'll have a 6-foot protected bike lane heading eastbound, one travel lane in each direction, parking lane, and then on the north side of Columbus will be a 2-way protected cycle track off-street trail. So what's going to be very exciting is that this is going to be reopened in May. It's going to be permanent. It's not a temporary opening. And it should be for anybody in the downtown and the train station area. This might be a great opportunity for lunchtime walks and to reconnect with the Orange Street Loop and now a Columbus Avenue Loop. You could do, Orange, George, Church, and Columbus when this reopens sometime this summer. But really what we're trying to convince folks, and I'll turn it back over to Anna, is, really thinking outside the car, continuing to promote alternative transportation. We know it's been tough with the pandemic, Obviously, train train capacities are down like 80%, and bus usage is down. But with vaccinations increasing, and we hope some remote work will be happening throughout the rest of the year, alternative transportations are still going to be a great opportunity for folks to think outside the car and stay away from the detour altogether. Anna, back to you, I think.
Okay. So I'll quickly go over this portion, but gladly answer any questions. This is just to give people a sense of what we're doing to inform the public. Of course, we're going to CMT meetings. We're also meeting with all large employers in the area and small employers too. This ranges from the hospital to the public school system to the bus companies that service the public schools, the Yale School of Medicine, etc. We will be doing media and reaching out to traffic reporters, in addition to encouraging people to sign up for construction news, because that will be sent directly to their inbox throughout this process. Some people here might already get phase 2 construction news, and that's been sort of steady, not a lot of changes lately. But we're trying to hit as many people in as many places as possible. So if anybody at this meeting has an organization or group that would like a presentation, just let me know, and we would be glad to present that. And in addition to, it's not just a presentation and it's not just the construction news, we can provide you with informational materials, hard copy and electronic, including the alternate routes, which I apologize, but let me back up. This is just an example. I'd say we have at least 15 garages and employer locations that we've developed alternate routes for, which will also have bullet points of turns people should make that are outside of the construction area and outside of even the official detour. And the purpose of this, again, is just to prevent growing pains to the extent possible while this occurs. So if there's any questions, again, trying to be mindful of time, but please feel free.
Yeah, this is Anstress. I have a quick question. For obvious reasons, you really have been focused on trying to keep cars out of the construction zone. I walk through that area quite often. Will you be offering any advice for how pedestrians and bicyclists should go through that area? For instance, where there's going to be still functioning walk lights and safe sidewalks. Even now, it's, if you're going up to Howard Avenue from downtown or Worcester Square, that area of the hospital campus, there's a lot of hard places, even in the current condition for, crossing the street. So that could be helpful to offer some advice or some maps as this goes on for pedestrians and bicyclists.
Yes, we definitely will also be doing that.
We do have pedestrian detours. We find that they're a lot easier to sign in the right of way, so that pedestrians will be detoured and so will cyclists through the construction site. But as far as a broad messaging campaign, the pedestrians able to, we find it better to use the signage in the street. But I do think you're exactly right. I think we need to beef that signage up, more than just the normal turn right here, maybe a broader map of the district showing where pedestrians no go, pedestrians do go, something like that.
Well, let's say if you're going up to an appointment at the hospital, you're very likely knowing that there's construction to try to look before you go, rather than kind of get caught in a cul-de-sac or something. So, I think that there would be people, if you had something online or included it in a weekly update, that would actually find that as a way of avoiding time delays and trouble.
Absolutely.
I agree, and we will share that. Thank you.
Alder Saban?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a process or how the process might work for communicating a change like this to the map services that folks use, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, etc. How long that happens?
There is a process. It's a little bit drawn out, but I am working on that. That's a very good point.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great point we have so many folks visiting from out of town, especially coming to the hospital, that stare at their phone and next thing you know, they're 2 feet into concrete. So we don't want that. Anybody else? All right, well, let's hear some more from the wonderful folks at TTNP.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Anna, for the update on Downtown Crossing Phase 3, and Carter and Ted for the one-on-one update. Briefly, we're here tonight also to update on our Safe Routes. Oh, geez. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
I just accidentally logged out of my computer, but I logged back in, I guess, very quickly. My fault. I was trying to go to full screen in my presentation, so I was trying to do a shortcut, Control L, not Apple L. Anyway, that'll happen. Great job, Doug. We're having the Zoomies here at 7 o'clock. But just a very brief update. We had a chance through our Safe Routes for All plan. This is a multi-year effort trying to engage our residents to have a more engaged process in our planning for our infrastructure. So the goal at the end of Safe Routes for All is to have a plan submitted to the Board of Alders for adoption by the City of New Haven to make it our official pedestrian plan, our official bike plan, and our official sort of go forward strategy for what we're calling tactical transit. So how do we implement some of this Move New Haven plan we've been working on for the last number of years? So what is active transportation? And I won't be more than a few minutes in, and you can also just give me a thumb if you want me to, hook it. But what is active transportation? All forms of transportation that rely on human power. And one thing that's important to remember is folks that take the bus usually are walking to bus stops. They actually get more than 30 minutes of CDC recommended active walking to the bus stop, and we have to take into account why transit customers are pedestrians first, and cyclists are also pedestrians first. So it's essential. What is active transportation? It's needed. It's especially during this pandemic. I've been seeing a lot of articles about families taking family walks and wanting to maintain this in the new normal, having this active transportation out there. Obviously, I don't have to tell downtowners and Worcester Squarers, a lot of folks are walking to work. A lot of people are biking to work. And what we are trying to do is, I see some friends and some colleagues from the past, and, how do we make it safer to cross into the park? How do we make it safer to walk to the grocery store? How do we make it safer to walk to the train station? How do we make it safer to walk to the bus stop? These are all the things that we need to be documenting in a plan and trying to chip away slowly but surely through an effort of our local government to do this. We started 2 years ago, and then 2020, we had a pandemic year, forgive us. But 2 years ago, we worked together. We had over 300 volunteers in 6 locations, focusing on 6 underserved, under-resourced neighborhoods in New Haven. The Safe Routes for All plan has a partnership with Community Alliance Research and Engagement, if you're familiar with CARE. CARE has a focus on these 6 neighborhoods, and we've been leading with a public health effort to try and, again, engage our residents of every neighborhood in bringing forth issues that are preventing us from being more active in our transportation use. So with these Safe Routes for All installations in first year, let me know if you haven't seen these. Most people have very strong feelings about the colors, very strong feelings about the colors. But what that was able to do was a few things. Number one, it physically reclaimed space from the right-of-way for pedestrians. Number two, it really also put a sort of an actual map marker out there about what we're trying to do. People saw this, people engaged with it a lot. Now we're here again engaging people. We've had an update in March. We'll have another big update in June. And in between, we'll talk about ways that we can engage together on the strategy. But the goals are pretty simple. We have to have a vision to move forward. Once we get that vision, we collectively build it. We'd like to submit it to the board for adoption, as it's our city's a collective vision. And then we want to start on closing the gaps and getting to work. Without a plan, you can't find the funding to build it. And so everything has to get put together so that we can take advantage of really big funding sources that are coming down the pipe, especially things at the federal level, where Secretary Pete Buttigieg has created something called Safe Streets for All. It's a program that is intended to invest in Black and brown communities that have been negatively disinvested or because of the investments from the highway system, and really with a focus on prioritization on safety with pedestrians and bikes. Our plan, our work is Safe Routes for All. Secretary Buttigieg is Safe Streets for All. I think we're seeing a lot of alignment here. We just want to make sure that we're having enough input from enough residents to know that this is really a collective effort. So we're doing a lot of existing conditions and research in the background, but in the foreground, this past weekend on Saturday, we had our first handlebar and handlebar and walking surveys. We launched from Ives Library in downtown, and we were blessed to have Mayor Elicker join us on Saturday, which was wonderful. And also our alders were with us too. Thank you so much for the support. We'll have more of these in May, and we'll talk about some. May 15th is a big date. We'll be able to get more invitations out to you as we finalize locations. But May 15th, we'll be doing Fairhaven as well as the Westville Library and the Dixwell Library. We've chosen the 5 branch libraries, including downtown and the 4 neighborhood locations, to use as our sort of our springboard so that we can get more outreach and engagement in our neighborhoods. What are some of the things that we're talking about? You know, how do you build bike plans? You know, right now we have a bike lane on Elm Street, but how do you take it to a protected bike lane? And how would you take Elm Street to a 2-way transit street with protected bike lanes? Or at Park Street, we're installing an Edgewood Avenue cycle track that's actually started construction. Big news. Howe and Edgewood, you can see white markings on the ground where contractors will be ripping up the intersection very shortly to start installing the Edgewood Avenue bike lane. It'll be months and months of construction. So, we have a lot of outreach and engagement to do over the summer in Westville, Dwight, and West River and Edgewood. But here's a Park and Edgewood installation. We've talked a lot about 2-way streets in downtown New Haven in the past. And this is what paint could do to make a 2-way street engage with that 2-way cycle track on Edgewood Avenue. But there is so much more that we have to do. There's been a lot of existing plans and conditions. And if you're saying to yourself, I feel like I've done this before, don't worry. Other, community groups have been submitting and proposing ideas. All of those are being reviewed by the city's plan here, with 16 existing plans and more being added. So we've also done an intersection database, looked at literally every single intersection in the city of New Haven to try and get a grasp of where the striping and the crosswalks and the pedestrianism is at the intersections. So here's what we're seeing so far. We'll have more information at the June meeting, but we have a lot of gaps. Also, we're looking at a lot of curb ramps that need attention and a lot of crosswalk painting that needs attention. And what's nice about this intersection database is we're doing a methodology that can be repeated in 2 years or 3 years by us as a committee, as a group, as residents. We're creating a new methodology that can be repeated every year. And here's the status of what we're seeing so far. As Alder Sabin mentioned earlier, Miriam asked earlier, excuse me, Alder, about the High and Chapel crosswalk. We have crosswalks, traffic signals that don't have pedestrian signals. One of them is very infamous, the Route 1 and Route 10 intersection, but there are there are many intersections in downtown and the west side of downtown particularly that are missing those. They're being installed now, but Edgewood Avenue is getting 11 new pedestrian signals. That's being installed now. But Elm Street is still missing all of their signals, and we don't have a plan or any hope of funding for those yet. So we have to keep working on finding that funding sources. And then the crosswalks, we have a bell curve of crosswalks, which makes a lot of sense. Things get old and things get tired. Here's where neighborhoods that have poor crosswalk or poor sidewalk condition, working off of the city's sidewalk condition index, and here's a neighborhood with no crosswalks. There are not enough crosswalks. It's not surprising that the newest neighborhoods are lacking the crosswalks. They were developed after the sort of the design of the car had influenced the way that we build cities. And then looking at our bikeway network existing conditions, we got a lot of bike lane miles, quote unquote, but 19 of them are shared lane markings, and shared lane markings are share rows. You see the share rows here in dots. And if we take them away, you start to see a real big gap in the bike network, a gap that we have to work on filling. We have some good projects over the last few years. We have some good raised crossings coming on Farmington Canal, but there's still a lot of gaps when you take away the share row network. And when you add in the buses, you start to see a great network of bus bike that could be really possible, but only if there's crosswalks to get there. So we're also, other data, we're looking at traffic calming requests, complete streets requests, see-click fix requests, and we're asking you to keep doing more. How do you keep engaging with the plan? I'll drop some websites and some links in the chat. Our website, saferoutesforall.com, or our Facebook page, Safe Routes for All. Just typing and talking, it's kind of hard. But if you'd like to engage your own walkabout surveys or write about surveys, let me know. I'll plot my email in the chat. Also, our consultant's email in the chat, streetplans.org. And let us know if you'd like to host your own walking survey or your own. It'd be great to have the Block Watch from Worcester Square lead a walking survey, and we would come and support with staff type thing. And then also come into the second public workshop in June. That'll help a lot to keep the momentum going. We led a walking tour of the medical district January 8th, and we led a few walking tours on Saturday. And like I said, we have more coming up in May. This is what our website looks like. You can go to your website yourself and take a look. This is the walking surveys. We were doing them in bilingual walking surveys and bilingual handlebar surveys, and we'll continue to do that work. Just wanted to show you the routes we took Saturday morning. This is the medical district route. And, what we were doing was walking with residents who know their streets the best, filling out qualitative surveys and turning them quantitative, because not all of us are experts in traffic, but all of us are experts about our neighborhood streets and how we feel about walking through our neighborhood. Here was one of our bike routes. This is a bike route as well. And this is the third bike route we did on Saturday. And again, same thing, qualitative survey. And it's, it's not rocket science, but we can work together and build a system where us residents are the experts of our streets, collectively can keep this plan going. The workshop is on our website. I'll try and drop the link in a second if you want to watch the workshop from March 24th. Be a lot of these same slides, but with that, I'll just pause and say thank you to the group, and keep letting us know how we can keep improving the bike and pedestrian and transit networks for the city. And we'll be hoping to see you in the June meeting.
Thanks, Doug. Anybody have anything on that? No? I will take a look at who's left in the room and say we've kind of gone down to our core stakeholders. So we are now preaching to the choir, I think, pretty much. But there's still a couple to go.
Ian, best, how do you get the choir to sing? You got to preach to the choir. Yeah. Please tell your neighbors, Safe Routes for All. We need your input and we need your help to make this the most equitable and participatory plan we've put to date. In fact, it's the only plan we've ever put to date.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. I really I like this this approach of giving people pieces of paper and fill them out and write around, because everybody's complaining that way, so we may as well collect that information and use it, huh? It's perfect. All right, so next up, quick update from site projects. Marshall, are you still with us? Yes, you are. Great. Uh-oh.
Don't worry, this won't take long. Am I here? Can you hear me?
You're here.
Okay. Over the past 4 years, Site Projects has been creating artworks based on the life of William Lanson, a Black freeman in the early 19th century New Haven. In the area of early New Haven Harbor, where he worked and where he worked and lived. You're probably familiar with the statue of Mr. Lanson that went up on the Farmington Canal by the Amistad Committee and City Plan. We are in the process of creating a mural series honoring Lanson. Our first mural is already up. You can go see it in downtown on Crown Street. But Site Projects has partnered with organizations like Connecticut Humanities, New Haven Promise, Amistad Committee, New Haven Office of Arts, Culture, and Tourism, and the New Haven Free Public Library to create an educational pamphlet and seminar celebrating William Lanson's legacy and achievement. The virtual seminar is going to be this Sunday from 3 to 4:30. We'll be hosting local historians and community leaders for an extended dialogue about Lanson. It'll be suitable for all ages and backgrounds, and everyone is welcome to register. You can register and download the pamphlet at siteprojects.org/Lanson, which I will drop in the chat. And that's it. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. That sounds cool. Thank you. And Aaron, are you with us still? There, I see him.
Yes.
Take it away.
Sure. Right. Thank you, Ian. Last but not least here. My name's Aaron Good. I'm the emeritus secretary of the management team, but I am still the chair of the ad hoc development committee, which holds meetings a couple times a year when there's a planning, zoning, or development issue that we want to delve into more deeply than we have time for in our regular monthly meetings. A couple months ago, February, I think, we heard a presentation in this meeting about redeveloping a parcel in our neighborhood, 10 Wall Street. It's currently a surface parking lot, and kind of using this parcel as a case study for the application of what proponents are calling lean urbanism to our zoning and development policies. And this was summarized in a report called New Haven at a Crossroads, Where Do We Go From Here, that I strongly encourage folks to read. There's a lot of discussion right now about reimagining and reforming zoning at all levels of government. We thought this was a critically important topic that deserved more discussion and attention, so we decided to schedule a development committee meeting to cover it in greater depth. So to that end, next Monday at 6 p.m., our management team development committee is going to hear from the 10 Wall Street group, the authors of this New Haven at a Crossroads report. We'll have the opportunity to ask them questions and hopefully to use their project as a point of departure for us thinking proactively about zoning and development policies and how they could be improved to enhance equity and livability for all, which as we all know is the raison d'etre of our management team. So we need your input. Please join us for that meeting next Monday. The Zoom link, I think we'll send that out shortly, hopefully along with the minutes of this meeting. And you can also RSVP on Facebook. We'll drop that Facebook link in the chat, and please feel free to share that with friends from other neighborhoods as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll put that in the minutes for this. We'll put the link out there, and we'll blast out a special email, I think, for that development as well. I've seen the report. I've read it. Some really interesting new ideas on how to both get the most amount of tax revenue per square foot, which I think is a really important part for our city, as well as creating little livable communities. I think you've all heard me rant about the large boxes that are going up all over our city. And I very much would like to know if there's an alternative. So I think we've now reached the open portion of our meeting. And for those who are left and have it in you, what do you got? Miriam.
Me, hold on to make sure Korea doesn't die. Yeah, like I said, I think, the downtown thing has been really bothering me for months. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there was too much expectation that, we can, people downtown can, afford to drive or, Uber, to another testing site. And that bothered me because if you're sick, you're not supposed to get in a car or a bus, and if you don't have a car, what are you supposed to do? So I felt like we were abandoned for that for months, because they said, you go to Fairhaven, go here, go there. And that involved that involved like a, car basically. And they said, well, call 211 if you don't have a car. And I actually did that just to see what would happen. They're not equipped to deal with non-Medicaid patients. So if you're not on Medicaid and you say, I'm not feeling well, I think I need a COVID test, I need a ride to 1380 Chapel because I can't walk, and I don't, they're not gonna be able to help you. They say things like call your doctor. So I feel like for months I wasn't being heard, and the docs, was not a perfect solution, for various reasons. And I feel like, and the New Haven Health Department, every day they advertise the one testing site that you need a card to not only get, like, to actually access. There's one on Long Wharf, and that's the one testing site they advertise every single day. Like, it must be some auto post. They tell you to go there to get tested, but that testing site, you need a card to actually use, not even just to get that, you can take the bus there, but then you need a card to actually get the test. So that kind of bothers me. And the vaccines, like I said, I think it's great there being more pop-ups, but I think having a permanent site would have been helpful. A lot of people downtown, like, already got vaccines because they when they were eligible April 1st, they didn't know there'd going to be like a pop-up the Schuberts. They went and, got wherever they could get. And I myself wanted a hospital setting, so I had to go outside New Haven because you can't even get one in a hospital in New Haven, or in so I had to do that. But and I think one issue I'm also seeing is that a lot of people I encounter are not vaccinated because they do not know they're eligible. I go into Ubers and Lyfts. The guys, they don't know they can get a vaccine. They don't know how to get one. They don't know they're eligible. I had a guy there who had a dryer contraption in his car to filter, and he had no idea he could get vaccinated. He lives in Bridgeport. I gave him the Bridgeport number to call because they have a dedicated resident number. But it's so upsetting also how, like, you see so many people who don't have any idea how to get a vaccine, and it's just more needs to be done to really help those people. I just, what I'm saying?
I do.
And the resident thing is really problematic. I think the resident thing needs to go at this point. I heard of people being turned away from the VAMS clinic. They sign up on VAMS for the New Haven Health Department clinic, and it didn't say you had to be a resident in New Haven. And then they get there and they were turned away. And I think that was wrong. If they registered in good faith, didn't lie about their address, and did everything properly, they should not have been turned away, even if New Haven later on changed the policy. And they were like, that's not right. And so I think we really need to rethink residency, rethink how, if the clinics are going to be walk-in or not, if we're going to take appointments, if we're going to tell people you can't come, you didn't have an appointment. I think all these things really need to be looked at. And I think also Pfizer seems to be the vaccine of choice if you can't Johnson & Johnson. So I think if these walk-up clinics were offering Pfizer, they'd be more popular even.
Yeah, thanks. I think that there is a lot of work to do there. Again, it's just too bad the mayor couldn't show up tonight because I think these are all really good questions for him. I am inviting him to the next meeting on May 18th, if his schedule allows it. I know that might be challenging, but in the meantime, we're going to keep trying to push on the health department to take advantage of the Schubert site if that's still what makes most amount of sense. They don't have any shows. They have a staff, and they've been a part of New Haven for a very, very, very long time.
And drop the residency thing. Yeah, drop the, if someone works in the convenience store and lives in West Haven, not be denied. Like, enough of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we're hearing there is there needs to be some regularity. The hunting, the fact that there are Facebook groups called Vaccine Hunters and Angels and whatnot, it does kind of highlight the fact that there's a problem with what we're doing and how it is you have to get one when you have to be referred to as a hunter or an angel.
Right. Well, that was also back before people were getting excess doses. Before everyone was eligible, the idea was you'd find, if you were not eligible, you would go to a pharmacy and get an excess dose. That's how it came to.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah,
how it
but
came
now it's. I mean, now you can just go on there and have. I don't know. You read that article about that teen from North Branford that.
Yeah.
Booked like several hundred appointments for somebody.
No, I've been helping people. I've been doing Vaccinate Fairhaven, and one reason about Fairhaven is A, they have Pfizer, and B, they take non-residents. So I had a Waterbury guy who said I need a Pfizer. I guess he wasn't able to make his own appointment for whatever reason. I was able to set him up with a Pfizer today at Fairhaven because they said you don't have to be a New Haven resident. Easy. I can't send him to a New Haven clinic because they would kick him out.
Well, sounds like Miriam might be the person to talk to if you need a vaccine.
I scheduled 4 people for that clinic. I've helped other people get their own appointments, and I scheduled my family in New York. So I've done New York and Connecticut, helping and scheduling.
Well, kudos to you. That's really well done. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Your points are well heard, and we will continue to make sure that the right people are hearing them.
Like also the Lyft drivers, believe it or not, like the rideshare drivers. I don't know what Lyft and Uber are doing to their drivers to make sure they know about it, because my driver should not have a dryer vent hooked to his car, but not know that he can call the Bridgeport phone number and you literally get a vaccine probably that week in Bridgeport.
Yep, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Last thoughts before we close? All right, well, there's a lot of things on the calendar. Too many to list now, and I think it's just us that I would be listing them to. So we'll send out that email. It'll have the calendar on it, and we're going to try to kind of reinvigorate the our Facebook, social media, Twitter sphere, and our emails. So we'll look for suggestions on that. I'd say the final thought here is, if you can think of ways to make this meeting more exciting or have more people in it, we will take them, because this is a lot of very important, very good information, and especially tonight, it's a lot of traffic updates. Thanks, Doug. Not edge of the seat entertainment, but really good, important information. So if we can figure out a way to spice that up, I'm down to help. So until next time, y'all.
And I can tell you, I can email you to talk to you privately at some point.
Absolutely. Is that me?
It's you, yeah, you.
Yes.
You.
Please, ianmdunn@gmail.com.
Okay, that'd be great. Yes.
Anytime. Talk to y'all. Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you.